I grew up in a pretty safe neighborhood. It was quiet and suburban. Everybody sort of kept to themselves. When I started college, I decided to keep living at home. The campus wasn't too far away, and the dorms were very expensive. That decision worked out just fine. My parents were happy that I wasn't leaving the nest yet. And I didn't have to deal with all the on-campus drama that my friends were constantly complaining about. Plus, I still got to socialize whenever I wanted. Most nights, I'd go out to parties and then drive back home well after midnight. And because I was so familiar with our street, I never felt unsafe. Well, that all changed last month when I was coming home from a game night in my friend Rachel's dorm room. It was a little past 2 in the morning, so the neighborhood was really dark and quiet. When I pulled...
So hey fam, this is Bigate. Today we have another masterpiece story, so I'm not gonna give you any spoilers, just watch it.
I saw a man in a hoodie walking alone. There was something about the way he moved that unnerved me. It's hard to describe. It didn't look like he was supposed to be there. I couldn't see his face, but even if I did, I wouldn't have recognized him. Despite living here my whole life, I didn't really know any of my neighbors. I'm sure he noticed my headlights, but he kept walking at the same slow, trudging pace. I decided to just stop my car and wait until he walked past my house. I didn't want to get out until he was far away. He kept walking, head down, body stiff. I noticed that he kept one hand in front of him, as if he was hiding a weapon or something. Finally, he made it past my house and disappeared into the shadows. I tried to tell myself there was nothing to be afraid of. He's just a neighbor. He's minding his own business. Still, my heart was pounding as I drove the rest of the way to my house. I pulled into the driveway and switched off the engine. Before I got out, I looked all around to make sure that the stranger wasn't there. At this time of night, with the yard covered in long shadows, my own home looked so unfamiliar. You can do this. Just get your keys ready and run to the front door. I kept my keys between my fingers in case I needed to use them as a weapon. Then, I took a deep breath and jumped out of the car. I ran up my porch and I struggled to open the lock. My hands were shaking horribly, so it took me a few tries. I looked over my shoulder. I swear I heard someone. The yard was empty. Everything was motionless. Then, just as I pushed the door open, I noticed dirty brown shoes sticking out from the bottom of our hedge. That man was hiding in the bushes, less than 10 feet behind me. I went inside and slammed the door shut, locked it, deadbolted it. Took a long moment to catch my breath. When I looked out the window in our front door, I couldn't see the shoes anymore. I tried to tell myself that I imagined them, but deep down I knew that I didn't. I immediately went upstairs to my parents' room to tell them, but when I heard Mom snoring and realized that their door was locked, I gave up. I'd tell them in the morning. Needless to say, I couldn't sleep that night. Well, the next morning, my parents were downstairs in the living room talking with a policeman. What's going on? My dad explained that our neighbor Mr. Johnson had been abducted last night. The cops were going door to door trying to find information. I instantly knew that I had seen the culprit, probably right after he left the Johnsons' house. I had to tell them the truth. The female officer wrote down everything that I said, but the male officer was a lot tougher. He demanded to know why I didn't call the police last night. I started sobbing. I didn't know why I kept silent. I knew something was off, and I should have called 911. At the very least, I was able to describe the hoodie and brown shoes. That had to help them, right? Mom came over and hugged me. Dad kept his distance. He looked so angry at me. The cops warned us to keep our doors locked and stay vigilant until they caught the person. And then they left. That was it. I didn't feel safe here. I thought about crashing at my friend's dorm, but it scared me to leave my parents alone here. If something happened to them, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. Well, after the cops left, Mom tried to cheer me up with pancakes for breakfast. Dad still seemed angry, but he kept reassuring me that nothing would happen to us. He sounded so certain, but I didn't believe him. We were on high alert for the next few weeks. I still went to class and came home immediately afterward, always before sunset. I didn't eat. I barely slept. Yes, I was crippled with fear, but mostly I was filled with regret. If I hadn't ignored what I saw, then the abductor would have been caught. If something like that ever happened again, I'd make sure to do the right thing. Dad seemed particularly upset. Life moved on. One evening, I was dressing up to go out on a date. Now, I didn't have any black heels that would go with my outfit, so I checked out my parents' closet to find Mom's extra pair. I had to dig around the back of the closet, and that's when I saw it. Dad's hoodie. Dad's brown shoes. The same clothes that the abductor wore. All this time, I thought that a psychopath had invaded our neighborhood. But the real psychopath lived in my house the whole time. I frantically grabbed my phone and snapped a photo. My hands trembled as I stared at the photo on my phone. There was no mistaking it. The dark hoodie with the familiar tear on the sleeve, the scuffed brown shoes with the distinctive laces, they were Dad's. The man I'd seen that night, the one hiding in our bushes, was my own father. I couldn't breathe. Without thinking, I bolted out of the closet and ran downstairs, my bare feet slapping against the wooden floors. "Mom!" I gasped, shoving the phone toward her in the kitchen. She was wiping down the counter, but she turned slowly at my voice. "Look at this!" I whispered urgently. "I found these in the closet. The hoodie, the shoes. They're Dad's. He was the one on the street that night. The one who took Mr. Johnson." Mom glanced at the screen, and instead of horror, a strange calm settled over her face. "I know," she said quietly, setting the dishcloth aside. "You know?" My stomach dropped. Shock hit me like ice water. Dad abducted Mr. Johnson? He's been keeping him in the basement? Torturing him? She nodded, her eyes steady but distant. "Yes, that's where he goes at night. He's been handling things down there since that night." I stared at her, my mind reeling. This was my safe suburban home. My ordinary parents. "Why, Mom? How could you let this happen? We have to call the police. We have to stop him." She shook her head firmly, refusing to meet my gaze fully. "It's complicated, sweetheart. Some things are better left in the past. Your father had his reasons, and I stand by him. This is family business now. No police." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Desperate, I rushed to the basement door at the end of the hallway and twisted the knob hard. It was locked tight with a heavy padlock I had never noticed before. I rattled it frantically, pulling and yanking until my knuckles hurt. "Mom, please, give me the key. We can't just keep a man prisoner down there." She placed a gentle but firm hand on my shoulder. "Leave it be. Everything will be over soon. Go upstairs and try to rest." The rest of the evening dragged by in tense silence. Dad came home acting completely normal, chatting about his day over dinner as if nothing had changed. I could barely eat, my thoughts spinning. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I tossed and turned in bed, every creak of the house making my heart race. Images of the hooded figure, the shoes in the bushes, and now the locked basement flooded my mind. Around 2 a.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I slipped out of bed, grabbed a flashlight, and crept downstairs. I remembered the spare key that Dad sometimes left in the kitchen drawer. My fingers shook as I found it and unlocked the basement door. The stairs creaked under my weight as I descended into the damp, musty air. A metallic smell hung thick in the darkness. In the corner, Mr. Johnson was tied to an old wooden chair, his face bruised and swollen, muffled groans escaping the gag in his mouth. Dad stood over him, tool in hand, in the middle of torturing him. "Dad, stop!" I cried out, stepping into the light. He whirled around, surprise flashing across his face. You shouldn't be down here." "Why are you doing this? He's our neighbor!" Without a word, Dad reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He swiped through it and he held the screen up to me. The pictures showed Mom and Mr. Johnson in intimate moments. They were having an affair. "Your mother betrayed us, with him, right under our roof. I found out months ago. This is how I make it right." I swallowed hard, anger and shock twisting inside me. What's your endgame here, Dad? You can't keep him forever." A grim smile crossed his face. "Tonight is the last night we'll be seeing Mr. Johnson. By morning, it'll all be over. Then we lock the basement forever. No one will ever know." I stood there, my parents trying to protect their relationship. I was impressed by their cold resolve, by how they had kept this secret and ended the threat. "Okay," I whispered. Together, we made sure Mr. Johnson was securely tied. Dad finished with cold efficiency. We climbed the stairs, closed the heavy door, and locked it tight with a final, echoing click. Without another word, we went upstairs. For the first time in weeks, I slept soundly. The neighborhood quiet once more.
So hey guys, this is BK. I hope guys you have enjoyed this story. So please do subscribe, like and follow this channel. And comment for the next part.